So I got a new lens for my camera here a little bit ago, so we're gonna go out and have some fun, test it out a little bit while we're taking Sam here, poor pathetic Sam down there, for a walk. He tries to be pathetic, he's not at all. So this lens is doing pretty good so far. I actually have a polarized filter on there at the moment, so you can see a bit more contrast and clouds behind me there, which is pretty nice. Taking photos of clouds is always something I've struggled with, so this polarizer is definitely helping out a little bit. More than a little bit, actually. It's pretty cool. And I say that, and this is actually the first polarized filter I've actually ever owned myself. I got this lens with a whole bunch of other filters and magnifiers for like close-in stuff, so it's been a really cool thing. This lens, by the way, is an 18 to 135 Canon lens. There's some other kind of fancy technology in there as well that my camera probably is not taking full advantage of, because this lens is actually built as a kit lens for the 70D, 80D, and 90D cameras, where the camera I've got right now is actually a T6i. I love to get my hands on a sunlight. I would love to get my hands on a 90D in the next few months. It's one of those things I've been working towards. Getting this lens here is kind of my first step into doing so. And this lens also is nice because it fills a gap that my other two lenses kind of left there. The other nice feature about this lens is you probably can't tell too much right now because I am walking at the moment, but I can. It's actually got a stabilizer on it as well. So it's or an image stabilizer, so the image is rather smooth. I can turn that off for you. There we go. Yeah, it's a little bit more shaky there, but the stabilizer definitely keeps it a bit more smooth there. Let's turn it back on. There we go. Here, stabilized again. Keep going for a bit here, huh? So Sam seems to have thought it was his task to find the only cocklebur bush up here, and he's coated with cockleburs now. If you don't know what cockleburs are, they're a little bitty seed full of a whole bunch of little hooks and whatnot, and they get stuck in fur and clothing and all sorts of other stuff, and they can be extremely fun to remove when you're trying to remove them, especially from a dog who doesn't want to have his butt feathers or butt fur pulled. So that's gonna be a fun thing to pull out of him again. Oh, life of a dog owner. Alright, so far this lens has been doing pretty good. This is the lens I was recording with when I was outside. I actually swapped it back to the 18-55 to do this little segment so I can actually show you the lens itself. I'm kind of impressed with this lens already. The zoom rate is definitely, like I said before, something that covers the gap left by this little 18-55, as well as my bigger Tamron here. This is a 75-300 lens. As you can tell, they're about the same size. This is again the 18 to 135, the newer lens I got. They're about the same size in height. They're kind of comparable in weight as well. So this is a beefy lens. The barrel on this lens is actually wider in diameter than this one. This is a 58 millimeter, and this is a 67 millimeter. So about 9 millimeters difference, but it's big. I actually did quite a bit of research before I bought this lens. I actually saw this for the first time in person at a Walmart. The first time and the last time I've been to Walmart in the past month or so. I don't go to Walmart very often. The closest one to Red Lodge is about an hour away actually, so don't get there very often. But saw this there and decided it'd be a cool lens to see if I could pick up and do some research on. Some of my favorite features of this lens so far are that zoom rate. It covers the gap that I've been leaving behind, like I said on the other two lenses. I said that a lot in this video. The other one is the almost silent focus on this lens. Compared to this little other 18-55, which is a kit lens. These are both kit lenses, but the smaller lens I have on the camera right now is actually really noisy when it's trying to focus on things. If you've been watching any of my videos throughout the channel, I've had that issue a little bit. It's been really noisy in some of my videos. You could just hear it kind of trying to focus on me. We'll find footage of that. It's really loud and really obnoxious, especially with an external mic on it like I'm running right now. You know, I forget how fast this little boat is I've got. It's a 12-foot it's a 12-foot wave destroyer, and I forget how fast it is just because cruising along and look back and everybody's out in the distance. So sitting in this pool waiting for them to catch up, and thankfully they are catching up. They're back here finally, so now I can continue on down the river. This lens, however, is almost dead silent. There's every so often you can hear the motors, the motor in here, and my phone just went off. You can hear the motor in here focusing a little bit, but for the most part it's dead silent compared to the other lens there. What threw me off when I first put my hands on this at Walmart was actually the focus ring here. I'm actually used to focus rings that actually after a while they'll stop. This one doesn't stop. You could actually keep turning it. The focus will stop, of course, but you can keep turning this to your heart's content. This does not seem to have a stopping point at all. This actually connects to an electronic motor in here. That's probably why this lens is about 8 millimeters thicker or 8 millimeters wider than the other two I've got. Is because probably more internal components on it. But it actually connects to an electronic motor in the inside of this, and that's what does the focusing throughout the entire lens. One of my other features, and something I've been looking for another lens, or in another lens for a while now, is actually a stabilizer as well. This one does come with a stabilizer. The little lens I'm using right now also comes with a stabilizer. This big Tamron does not have a stabilizer on it, so that's one of the features I don't like about this one. But I've had to work through that in the past, so I've got good footage out of it, and I mainly use this one for photos. Out on the main salmon, this was an excellent one to use for photos, especially with boats coming through rapids and whatnot. That's what I hope to use this guy for in the future. More photos and a lot more video through this guy. There's also a lock on here, so you can actually lock it down at 18 millimeters. As you can tell, it's not going to turn right now, and unlock it, and I can zoom it now. So there's a lock on there, which is kind of nice. Nice and simple. There is here on the bottom of the lens itself, there is a mounting spot for a motor, so you could actually put a motor on here and use that to zoom for an auto zoom on the lens itself. I don't plan on getting one of those myself. It's out there. I personally don't feel like I need it. I've seen videos of people putting them on there and using them, and they just seem kind of sluggish and slow. So it's not something I'm gonna purchase, but if you want to look into that stuff, you can purchase it. But I'm gonna leave this just as it is. This Canon 18-135 is in no means a professional lens. This is a kit lens, or can be a kit lens, like I've said before. They usually come with package deals with the Canon 70 to 90D bodies. As I said before, the Canon 90D is definitely a camera body I've been looking at, and I really want to get my hands on and test out and see if I really want to purchase it. What I've been looking for is actually more of a faster capture rate for the camera, so faster frames per second when you're taking photos. The T6i I've got right now does about 5 per second before it hits a buffer limit. And then the Canon 90D will actually double that, so I'm at some point in time, I'd love to get my hands on the 90D and actually test it out and see if it's really the camera I want to have. And in this way, this is kind of my step to doing that, my first step to doing that anyway. On a lot of the reviews you'll see out there online with people who actually go through the specs of it a lot more than I will do, and I'll try and link a few of those in the description below. But they go through the specs of these, and a lot of them will actually agree that it leaves a little bit of blurring around the edge of the frame, sometimes a little bit of vignetting, which is that darker or the lighter kind of edge to the frame. So it's not in no way a professional lens at all. I bought this lens and some filters. I got 3 filters and kind of 4, they're kind of filters, but they're more of like a micro filter, so you can put them on there and actually zoom in on your micro subjects a bit more. But I got the whole thing, a shroud and a cleaner, of course, or a hood and a cleaner, of course, for under 400 bucks. So it's definitely not a cheap lens, and it's definitely not too expensive. It's a nice kind of medium ground, I feel like. If you're looking to not spend 400 bucks on a lens, I wouldn't probably not buy this lens. I've only really had it for a couple of days, and in that time, it's been excellent so far. I really want to get it out there onto some river trips, and I have plans on getting it up to the ski area, or the Red Lodge ski area here where I work, and trying to take some photos, like in the terrain park, or just when skiers are coming down the hill, trying to get some good shots of those guys coming down. It's another spot I'd like to have a faster frame rate on when I'm taking photos. So another downside to this lens is the aperture. Actually, it's marked as having a different aperture in there, and the aperture will actually change in this lens depending on the zoom length of the lens. I think the widest it'll go is 3.5, and then the further in you zoom, I think it goes into like 5 point something. So it's definitely not the best lens for an aperture rate. If you're looking for a wider aperture, or a lens that will shoot at faster frame rates with that wider aperture, this is definitely not the lens for you. It's not that big of a deal to me. I usually don't do a lot of inside shooting unless I'm sitting here talking to you guys through my camera. This lens will definitely be more used in a sport scenario, when I'm out on the river, or like I said, when I'm trying to get up there on the ski area and take some photos of some skiers coming down the runs. So the aperture isn't that big of a deal to me yet. I'm sure I'll run into that in the future. Alright, gotta make this quick, my light's dying. Other than that, I've enjoyed this lens. Thank you for sitting through my rambling of this lens. I know that wasn't very tech heavy. There's a whole bunch of tech videos out there, and I'm not the world's best photographer. I like to get more into technical stuff about rafts and kind of river equipment than lenses. Although lenses are quickly becoming a thing I do from day to day, hopefully. So thanks for sitting through it again, and I will talk to you guys in the next video I post, whenever that may be.